Cowboy wrestling outside the top 10 is absolutely crazy. Almost as crazy as predicting a 9-win season without an entire new offensive line. Thankfully, we have that. So let's take a peek at the portal-driven depth chart that will have Oklahoma State O-line much better this season.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use a code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com to take 50% off your first entire year. Head on over to monarchmoney.com today. Meanwhile, we shift into the conversation that is always going to encapsulate whether Oklahoma State's in fact going to have a 9+ win season this year, and that is the offensive line. Quarterback competitions naturally grab headlines. Replacing the all-time reception leader in Brennan Presley is going to be a natural piece of concern or conversation entering the season. We could even talk about how upgraded the defense is and how the staff is going to bring in a whole new attitude to Stillwater America. But the biggest question mark is likely going to be with the offensive line. So much so that we had to get some more mobility out of the quarterback position to kind of cover up some of the glaring issues we had in this previous season, which is actually kind of crazy when you think about it. Oklahoma State returned 7 offensive linemen from the same team that previously helped Ollie Gordon rush for the Doak Walker Award, almost 1,800 yards, and entered this previous season as a Heisman candidate. The biggest mistake that Ollie Gordon made potentially in the offseason was helping all of those offensive linemen get paid too much money, right? I think whenever you look back at it, the PFF grades for Doak Walker season for Ollie were actually somewhat comparable. So it was a little bit of a mirage that we were going to be able to rely on those dudes. But traditionally, whenever you have 6-7 returning offensive linemen that just won 10 games, that just played for a Big 12 title, that just had the number 1 running back in the country, you would assume they need to all get their money. So they all stick around and they all create a massive season for Oklahoma State. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And I think you have to look squarely at the complacency and laziness aspect of that whole crew. I mean, not necessarily that all of them were individually lazy, but they weren't clearly doing a whole lot of things to put themselves up on the next level. This new offensive line, however, yes, it's led by a bunch of portal pieces, but these portal pieces are going to be crucial to the success that Haas Haney and Zane Flores have in this upcoming season. So we're going to take a stab at a potential depth chart here. And yes, we wanted to wait on this because it appears as though Noah McKinney and Austin Kawecki are battling for a guard spot, and it's going back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to go ahead and just go with it anyways. And I'm going to say that the left tackle is probably going to be Markell Samuel, the Appalachian State transfer that in the last 559 snaps has only given up 2 sacks, which is why he was a hot commodity in the transfer portal. Whenever we got him, he was classified as like one of the top 25 biggest gets out of the portal at that particular time. I think he slides in here. Another individual who's going to be very competitive at that spot is going to be Tyler Brumfield. Tyler Brumfield, a Snow College, Benny Tonga style of product, just came to Oklahoma State after a first team All-American JUCO selection. His offensive line group produced the number 1 offense in the country and the number 9 ranked rushing offense in all of JUCO football this previous season. So I think he's going to factor in squarely into the mix for what the Cowboys are looking at this season. Then we got to talk about that spot, that guard spot that keeps going back and forth between Austin Kawecki and Noah McKinney. Obviously, Austin Kawecki is going to be one of those guys that we're going to bring up in the next segment. But, yeah, he's a loyal and true to the core style of individual that you love to see. He's played some tackle. He's played some guard. He's played some center. And he's still continuing to do a multitude of things. Right now, I think I'm going to go ahead and give the nod here to Noah McKinney because last year, Noah McKinney and Jason Kessel-Brooks were the 2 best PFF grades in the limited time that they did get to play. But it also was a correlation in practice that was likely somewhat visible as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put Noah McKinney here as the starting guard because Austin Kawecki is not only going to back him up, but Austin Kawecki is also taking snaps at center. So Austin Kawecki is going to be either a starting guard, a backup guard, but also going to be the backup center. And we all know that he did play tackle early on in Oklahoma State when he was classified as a little bit undersized. So he could still seemingly slide out to tackle if need be. Austin Kawecki is the jack of all trades dude that obviously could thrive in a system like this. Going to center, it's got to be Cason Carpenter. The Tulsa transfer that last year coming into the season was classified as 281 pounds by the Tulsa Golden Hurricane, is now up over 305 pounds while in Stillwater. The communication aspect, the leadership aspect, he seemingly already has all that down, which is why he's going to be the dude. And of course, Austin Kawecki would likely slide in behind him if something were to happen to Cason Carpenter. But after them, you got to go with another big body beast from Stillwater, Oklahoma, Stillwater High Schools, Jacoby Sanders. Next, we got to go with the other guard spot. I think that's easily going to be Bob Schick. Bob Schick coming over from Virginia Tech, started 23 games, 13 this previous season and 10 this last year. The year prior that he started all 13 games for Virginia Tech, they produced the number 22nd ranked rushing offense in all of college football. So now we're bringing that leadership to Oklahoma State, not to mention the fact that he's 6'6", 320 pounds. That's definitely beneficial as well. Behind him, I do think it makes sense to have Lavaca into this equation, perhaps a Jared Henry. Unfortunately, Jalen Beckley, Miguel Chavez seem to have some potential issues. Maybe it's minor, maybe it's major, don't know. But thankfully, I think we have enough dudes here that it's going to be fine. And then the other tackle spot, got to be Nuku Mafi. Nuku Mafi, this is very rare. Whenever you go out and get a decent number of transfer portal dudes that you expect to be able to slide in, whenever you have somebody that's a redshirt freshman, 6'4", 330 pounds, and is already forecasted into a starting role, naturally that's a very, very big deal for Oklahoma State. But it also means that we've got some dudes behind him that are going to be able to carry a lot of weight too. One of those being Louis Canepa. Louis Canepa just came over with Coach Mitchell from New Mexico State. And while at New Mexico, he started multiple times within several seasons. But I do kind of feel like this is a depth piece, but it's also another one of those individuals that can help Coach Mitchell with the coaching side on the field. This is what he looked for. This is what he wants done. This is how he wants it done, so on and so forth. And I think you do have to factor in Grant Sigrid to one of these positions as well. I think Grant Sigrid could be something comparable to Austin Kawecki, in regards to having the ability to play a multitude of spots, right? This is the athlete that we just swooped up from Nebraska, played tight end, played defensive end, then Nebraska converted him over to a tackle. Athletically, he's going to be more gifted than most everybody else. As he continues to pack on the pounds, that versatility is something that we could see kind of slide all over the board here. And then additionally, I think there are some other dudes that are, going to play a hand in this. I think Jared Henry and Davis Dotson have both been in the system long enough now to have a good understanding of what they need to do. Like Lavaca coming over from Weber State is probably too good to not factor in somewhere. Jameson, the Broken Arrow product, is yet another individual that doesn't necessarily need to be rushed along, but could factor in here. Likely we're going to redshirt Riker half because there's not a need. I think you could say the same about Simona being one of those potential redshirt individuals. And then, of course, we've got a couple injuries that we'll have to deal with. But all done and said, when you have Markell Samuel, who is very, very sought after because of this 559 snaps with only giving up 2 sacks, that's obviously a big deal. He's got a big frame. He's a good-sized dude that brings a lot of tenacity, essentially, to that position that you absolutely have to have. Behind him, you have the first-team JUCO All-American and Tyler Brumfield. Learning that, Cason Carpenter is coming over from Tulsa and been very, very surprising is a big deal, because if Cason Carpenter wasn't killing it, then Austin Kawecki likely is starting center, right? And then we don't have the Kawecki versus Noah McKinney over there at the other guard spot. And then to hear that Nuku Mafi has come on very, very strong and is likely to be the dude that solidifies the other tackle spot with somebody like, Canepa behind him with a lot of experience and a very good understanding of what Coach Mitchell wants done, and the athleticism of Grant Sigrid coming over. And Gage Stanland is another individual that's going to factor into some of this as well. Caleb Hackelman could be, but there's a lot of things that some of these younger offensive linemen need to do to put themselves in a position to be part of this rotation. Regardless, if you went 3 deep at the O-line, some of it would be just kind of tongue-in-cheek, because clearly guys like Austin Kawecki and Noah McKinney have proven to play multiple spots at multiple different, levels of football, because previously Noah McKinney was one of the top offensive linemen for UNLV. UNLV is obviously ascending, but they're not quite at the same level as the Big 12, so they're graded a little bit differently. I think you've got a lot of guys coming over from like Bob Schick from Virginia Tech that has been at successful places when it comes to a rushing attack, that has been at places where the Power 4 grind is not going to be completely surprising. But in addition to that, some of these dudes didn't start for a couple of years. So some of these guys don't have the exact same wear and tear as opposed to, say, a 5-year offensive line starter, like maybe somebody like a Dalton Cooper. Dalton Cooper came to Oklahoma State from Texas State after very comparable statistical lines to not giving up very many sacks. I think it was, 1,300 snaps, and he'd only given up 7 sacks before he came to Oklahoma State or something like that. That's a lot of wear and tear. So even somebody like that who's getting a 6th year may not be as fresh as somebody who has started the last 2 years, but the first couple of years, they were just getting bigger. They were learning about the strength training and the nutrition and understanding the class workload that also goes into film preparation and things of that nature. So we've got some dudes that have some veteran experience, that have starting experience at the Power 4 level, but not 4 or 5 years per se. So I think from a health perspective, that's probably a good thing. And then have somebody like a Grant Sigrin that can be here for a significant amount of time, validates that this staff does know what they're looking for, and it's an exciting time. Not to mention, in closing, we have 3 offensive line coaches, which has never happened before in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And we have people that have been a center. We have people that have been a guard. We have people that have been a tackle that came from being a defensive end and a tight end like Cooper Bassett. So who better to train somebody than Cooper Bassett for a guy like Grant Sigrin that is going through something very comparable at the moment. But thank you, Austin Kawecki, for being that Swiss Army knife, the jack of all trades that can play a little bit of everything, because it's guys like you, the old school Cowboy culture dudes, mixed in with all of these new transfers, that is going to allow for Cowboy culture to grab hold and kind of morph into something more special this season. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to manage your money in the best way physically possible, and that is going to be with Monarch Money. Most people cannot name all of their financial accounts or even necessarily what they're all worth individually, whether it's a 401k or properties, investments. You need to have a full picture of where your finances are going and where they can help you go, because you can end up leaving money on the table if you don't have that understanding. That's why Monarch Money is here to help you. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link up all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever necessarily touching a spreadsheet. Like, we've all had subscriptions that we didn't realize we were still paying for, or we've all had a couple like independent goals, whether it be something for your future or your kids or a vacation that you need to try to save up for. But it's hard to manage all of that with the day-to-day operations that also cost money. Monarch Money is here to help you. Do not let this opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first entire year. That is 50% off your first entire year at monarchmoney.com. Make sure that you just use that code, all one word, Locked On College, for that 50% off your first entire year. Head on over to monarchmoney.com today. From Monarch Money to the dudes who may not get all of the NIL money. They may not get all the fun, fancy, pretty stuff that some of the top recruits and the top transfers are getting. But it is these guys that are going to be responsible for the success that Oklahoma State's going to have inside the locker room, right? We've talked about the downside to having a very transfer-heavy team is the fact that it's very difficult to have that Cowboy culture, that cohesiveness, that camaraderie that enables you to overcome the craziest portions of the season, right? When it's nut cutting time and it's very close game in the fourth quarter or going into overtime, it's that locker room connection that typically finds teams on the bright side of those W's. Well, I like the fact that you're converging some of the, like DeAndre Boykins coming over from North Carolina, like Freddie Brock, been at multiple different systems, multiple different levels, could be good for Oklahoma State. Jalen Davies, was a hustler that went to Oregon and then transferred to UCLA to bring some of that experience. Terrell Davis, he's been at a small level for such a long time. This is his year to pop up on the scene. Christian Fitzpatrick, same thing. It's taken him a little bit of time to get to this level. But then you have guys like Raymond Gay II. The dude's been with Oklahoma State for what, almost 5 years now? The 5'10", 180-pound safety from Dallas, Tejas. He's one of those guys that has seen the different layers of Oklahoma State, the different philosophies and coaching staff. And he can help convey to the defensive dudes what to look for. This is what Mike Gundy needs. Kenneth Harris, he's been here for a couple of years now, so not exactly one of the OGs, right? Not one of the 4 or 5 year gangsters that committed to Oklahoma State, came to Oklahoma State, and stayed at Oklahoma State. Not necessarily one of those dudes, but he's been here more than enough time. Trent Allen, also been here a couple of years. Sam Jackson, he's been at multiple Power 4 stops at multiple Power 4 positions. That insight could be huge. J.K. Johnson, being from Ohio State, then LSU, now to Oklahoma State, and increasing his speed to crazy levels. That's huge, but not as big as Hayden Kelly. Another one of these loyal and true dudes that has been here for year after year after year after year. Perhaps this is his season to get the most amount of opportunities physically possible. The 6'3", 220-pound beast from Thomas, Oklahoma. We have to rely on guys like that to have success. Excuse me. Amon Oates, been here a couple of years now. All right, yeah, he might be in there, but he's not a Parker Robertson. Parker Robertson, a 5'11", 185-pounder that is now not only playing safety, but he might have one of the best stories of all of these dudes. Like your tried and true old school walk-on that's just going to hold himself accountable, and he's going to bust his hump every day, and he's going to run extra stadiums and watch extra film and do extra work, all in hopes that maybe he'll get a scholarship. And maybe if he gets a scholarship, he'll get a little bit of playing time. Parker's done all of that. He's been that dude, and he's made a name for himself, so much so that he's going to factor into this season as well. We don't talk about Parker enough, and he's one of the most forgotten about dudes that has climbed the ladder the hardest way physically possible. So we got to give it up. Another old school dude, loyal and true, Cam Smith. Cam Smith, 6 foot, over 200 pounds now. He could have gone many places at many times. I mean, that size alone is very coveted by all teams across the country. To have that size, that skill, that speed, and that level of hands, he could have left at any point in time. He could have been your traditional NIL transfer portal casualty, but he stayed true to it at Oklahoma State. And he's another dude that can kind of teach not only the transfer portal guys, but the younger guys how to merge all of this together alongside K.O. Smith, right? They've been on the grind together. They've been doing the same thing together at the same place against the same dudes. Absolutely huge. We talked about the tight end position, about how Logan Ward, Josh Ford is obviously that guy. And then there's a competition behind him. It could be Will Hammond, or it could be Oscar Hammond, could be Will Money. But Quinton Stewart doesn't get enough love. So I made sure to sprinkle him in yesterday because situationally, he is our best blocking tight end. So there is going to be situations where you got to have Quinton Stewart on the field. And one of those being, we mentioned Trent Allen being that big body beast that you need to throw in the game to solidify a W, to get a final first down, to win a ball game with controlling ball security. Quinton Stewart's going to be that guy for the tight ends. If we have to lay down a block to win a ball game, it's likely going to be Quinton Stewart because he is that old school Cowboy culture kind of dude. Logan Ward, he's been here some time now. An Okie that has paid his dues. This is his big season. We definitely owe guys like this a whole bunch of gratitude. I think now you do have to factor in Deshaun Brown into this OG crew. Who'd have thunk it? We're 4.5, 5 years into this run for the Choctaw, Oklahoma native. This is his time. This is a massive season for him. Landon Dean, it's hard to imagine he's been here for multiple years now. Thankfully, we're hearing throughout spring and fall, he's been able to kind of poke out, do some fun stuff. We should be able to see it on the field this season. Cam Epps, he's been a ride or die dude. He's been hanging it tough at Oklahoma State. Been a starter and then not a starter and then switching positions and then a starter again. He's gone through a lot of ups and downs. Much like Jaleel Johnson and Deshaun Brown, this could be a massive year for somebody like a Cam Epps. Austin Kawecki, the jack of all trades, the Swiss Army knife of Oklahoma State. Watching what he was doing, 4 years ago, as like a 265-pound tackle. Now that he's over 300 pounds and he's flexing with his versatility, that's huge. We just mentioned him a little bit, Jaleel Johnson. This is the season for him and Deshaun Brown to combine for a massive year. And it's because he's been through the grind. He's went through different positions, right? Flirted with DT, played some DE, played some jack outside linebacker, back to DE, could at 270 pounds, who could slide in and play some DT if need be. And we're going to have to see that this season. Talon Shetron, injury after injury after injury. The NFL talent is there. This is going to be an interesting time for him. Another season on the bench, but this could be a big moment for him to show his leadership capabilities and to help some of these younger wide receivers like Io Mike King put himself in a position to have a big year. I think Ike Essenwoon, he's only been here a few years, but being here 3 years now kind of makes you one of these loyal and true dudes. Same could be said about Jacoby Sanders. Jacoby Sanders only been here a couple of years. Yeah, okay, maybe. But he's a Stillwater High School guy that can lift with the best of them, that can bang weights with Justin Kirkland and Armstrong Nodum. You got to have these culture guys with 65 new dudes and 99% all new coaches. There's going to be emergence of some of the NFL SEC ways that Todd Grantham and Dede and Osborne and everybody are bringing over. There's going to be some of that old school, Doug Meacham, Oklahoma State, 2009, 2010, 2011, high-flying offenses. There's going to be some of that old school emergence with these guys. But if you don't have the old school crew to help piece it all together, then your locker room cohesiveness and camaraderie is probably not going to get to the levels you need it to be in the tight games that are about to go into overtime and the very intense moments. Those are the big games where locker room togetherness actually factors in. And I think we've got enough of these old school, loyal and true dudes mixed with the new staff and the new transfer portal guys that if you win, this thing could grow legs and get pretty crazy pretty quickly. And 9 to 10 games is not a crazy scenario anymore. All right, now we get to switch gears here to a wrestling conversation. This one will be somewhat brief. This is ridiculousness is what this is. So shout out to Zach Seiko, Penn State. He stays on top of wrestling like nobody's business, right? He sends me this deal. And I said, well, what is that? He said, that's Oklahoma State's projected ranking. And I was like, projected ranking for what? Like, what crazy kid came up with this? And he said, it's not. It's a account. I'm having trouble finding it. Whatever. But it's an account, a wrestling content account that this is all they do. The College Wrestling Review or whatever, TCWR, put out their NCAA tournament rankings. So after the season's over and everybody's going into the tournament, this is what they have Oklahoma State as, finishing this upcoming season as number 12 at the NCAA tournament. That is the most preposterous thing I've potentially heard all year. You don't have to be a wrestling guru. You don't have to be a wrestling expert or specialist to know that this is an insane number to attach to Oklahoma State wrestling. I mean, you have the spark plug, Troy Spratley, coming back at 125. You have a returning national champion transfer from Arizona State in Figueroa that should be a 33 guy, but Ren Sakamoto, he could surprise the world and slide in here. Sergio Vega just surprised some people with a couple massive W's, including one over Team China. So Sergio Vega is somebody that's going to factor into 133. Apparently, this ranking didn't take some of this stuff into consideration. And if you have Cale Hughes projected as a particular weight, maybe, okay, I can see some viability. Maybe J.J. McComas isn't necessarily going to factor into what they're looking at. But how can you not factor in somebody like a Tegan Jameson? right? How can you not look at what Tegan Jameson did in a very, 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 very short season last year and say, absolutely, all day, every day, that guy's going to compete for All-American status easily this upcoming season as long as he stays healthy. Then you have an All-American transfer coming over from Iowa State and Casey Swiderski. You have Zach Ryder coming over from Penn State. Like you have Alex Facundo coming over from Penn State. We just saw a little bit of Cody Merrill. That was impressive. We have a decent understanding of where some of these guys are going to slide in. D. Lockett, the phenom that's been winning. He was the only one who got beat by Team China. And that was actually pretty surprising. And then you have to take into consideration, he's still a kid, right? The dude was just 17 not all that long ago. But he's up there competing at U21s and U23s because he is that flippin' good. So regardless of what the lineup is going to shake out to, the fact that anybody that researches wrestling could have Oklahoma State at 12th with this roster, yes, without Wilder Henderson, without Dean Hamady Jr., without Caleb Fish, without Cam Amin, without any of that. This is crazy. I think Connor Doucette is going to prove a lot of people wrong this season. Some of these transfers, like Facundo and Ryder and Swiderski and Figueroa, these are all dudes that are good enough to compete for national titles. Maybe not win a bunch of individual natties, but compete all day, every day. Absolutely. Bruce Bradley should be ready to win a natty. Casey Swiderski could be able to win a natty. I think that you can say the same about Tegan Jameson. If Gail Hughes is 100% dialed in, ready to rock and roll, and he's easily maintaining his weight, that dude's a problem. But even just the transfer portal guys are going to be an obstacle for every team in the country. Surely not 11 other teams in America are going to beat us. Penn State, yeah, they are returning 7 team members from multiple natties that just broke all the points records. So, yeah, okay. Penn State won. Makes sense. Nebraska, they finished number 2 last year. So, naturally, it would make some sense. Oklahoma State finished 3rd. But, no, they have Iowa finishing 3rd, followed by Iowa State, Ohio State, North Carolina State, Lehigh, Illinois, Virginia Tech, Minnesota, Stanford, Michigan, then Oklahoma State, then Cornell and Little Rock. So, TCW are the college wrestling rankings, whatever. This is dumb. Be better. Try harder. Do more research. Because we have several transfer All-Americans. We have former national champion All-Americans that apparently have come to Oklahoma State and they become scrubs now. According to this ranking, these dudes that used to be big timers at other universities are going to come to Stillwater, and it's just not going to work out very well. Come on. Get out of here. This is lazy. When a Penn State dude's texting you like, well, I don't even know what this is. I don't even know how they could fathom this making any sense whatsoever. That's, it's something you got to talk about. So it is what it is. Anywho, I reckon that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you like it, dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast, people out there. Appreciate you. You're everything that makes this whole thing work. So go ahead and do what you do. Hit on them stars. Click on them reviews. Type some fun stuff up. All righty, y'all. Later, my taters.